This perp back with another video, and I just got done watching the season finale of Lovecraft Country. This is episode 10. This is going to be a pretty lengthy video, but I salute to anybody that, finishes this whole video because we have a lot to dive into. There's a lot to talk about. I will give you my thoughts on what they could possibly do for season 2 towards the end of the video, but all that being said, let's get right into it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and follow me on Twitter at perpminded420. Now, we as the viewers have watched these characters go through so much through each individual episode. I loved how each character kind of got its own type of story, and we're finally seeing everything come into full circle, hence the name Full Circle. And man, I've just been blown away by this series. All these characters are likable. You really can, put yourself in their shoes. All the different adventures, the obstacles that they go through, and they have to go through one more, and we're going to get right into it right now. So getting the Book of Names, they tell this spell, this is to help Dee out, because she's still kind of going through what she's going through. And this automatically knocks out Letty and Tick on the floor. And now we get into this kind of alternate dimension or something like that, where, you have Atticus talking to his ancestor and Letty's talking to his grandmother. And I really like this because we learn way more about like Hannah and just the whole Book of Names and how that all the magic belongs to them. And just there's so much in these scenes. It's so powerful, especially this scene where Atticus sees his mom for the first time in a while, and it's just, man, I broke down because I felt that scene. And that's why I kind of got from this whole entire episode as it goes through is about accepting your fate. You can't change fate. All you can do is pretty much accept it. But going back to, to the house, Dee is feeling better. She's kind of freaked out that her arm is like kind of rotted out and whatnot. So they come up with this plan. So pretty much they're going to take the power away from Christina, but they have to pretty much get a part of Christina, a part of Titus, and connect them all with Atticus. And Letty is doing something interesting in the background, which I'll get into later. She's writing down notes, making sure she, pretty much got everything down, because now she's the one that has to pretty much protect this book. So as they start doing this one ritual to pretty much bring back the ancestors, we see Titus for the first time, and his interaction with Hannah was really interesting. And I'm wondering if Titus is really going to be like the overall arching villain somehow in this. It doesn't look like that, but they're able to pretty much get a piece of Titus with the help of the ancestors. Tick is able to say goodbye to his mother for the last time, and the scene between him and his mother, she says some really key things that I'll get into a little bit later within this video, but it was really dope to see that. And we go back to Hippolyta and Dee kind of feels some type of way of Hippolyta just leaving, because of all the stuff she went through. And even Hippolyta says, if I knew what was going on with you, I would have been here sooner. But she has all this knowledge, and she has brought back all this technology and stuff, and she just wants to give back and help the others. And this clarifies my whole prediction of Dee is the one that gets the robotic arm that gave Atticus in the future, whatever, the book that he brought back, which was really interesting, I'll tell you. So they're all pretty much saying like, yo, we gotta do this. But then barges it. Who comes barging in the door is Christina. Christina is pissed, but she's able to keep her composure. You know, she never really like freaks out or nothing like that. Gives Atticus an ultimatum like, look, give me the book or I will spare your family and your friends and whatnot. And Atticus is like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Your tricks and whatnot is not going to work with us anymore. Kick rocks. So in return, she takes away Letty's invulnerability spell off of her, as pretty much saying like, all right, you're against me now. Then we get a scene of Atticus finally doing the right thing, calling up Gia, finally got her name right, Gia, and making things right with her and saying like, look, you're a part of this family too. You know, this was destiny. I know you're trying to help. I didn't see that at the time. You know, and this is what Atticus's mom was telling Atticus about, you know, Montrose and George. Like, these are a part of my life, you know, they're a part of my life, and you gotta treat other people like that as well. So Gia is along for the ride as well. Then we get an interesting scene between Letty and Ruby, and they're at their mother's gravesite, and they're kind of hash words at each other, and Letty really pretty much comes up with the idea earlier on in the episode, like, we're gonna use Ruby to pretty much get a piece of Christina so we can make sure this whole Hannah spell works. And Christina is not dumb. She sees through this plan the minute like she looks at Ruby and whatnot, but we'll get back to that a little bit later. So Atticus does a lot of reflecting throughout this episode. Like, he's kind of halfway in the door and halfway out. And shout outs to Letty, because she always keeps him grounded and he always comforts him, and you know, she's in this with him too. And I need myself a Letty in my life. You know, everybody needs that Letty in their life, that woman that's always going to be there, keep you grounded. And I really appreciate that. And you see that Atticus has kind of come to terms with his fate once he's in the car and everybody is having this little touching moment of everybody connecting. Even you see Ruby coming back to Letty saying like, I got it, which was kind of suspect. That seemed a little bit too easy. So we finally arrive at Arkham, however you want to pronounce it. Back where we first started in the first episode, where they were trying to get to at first. Atticus is pretty much accepting his fate at this time, and things just start to go left as Letty notices that Ruby is not herself, and Christina has supposedly, as far as Letty knows, kills Ruby, and they start duking it out, and they're way too outmatched. Letty gets thrown out of, like, it looks like a 3-story lighthouse, and it looks like she's there left for dead. I'm like, no way she's dead, bro. That'd be fucking insane. But I have a feeling that Ruby possibly learned a protection spell and used that to help Letty. I don't know. That's just my theory. Let me know how you guys feel about that. So with Dee in the car, you know, pretty much waiting for everybody to come back. She's reading Lovecraft. She's hearing rumblings and stuff throughout the forest. She meets the pet dog. I don't know what else you would call those creatures, but she meets the pet dog. We'll get into that later. Going back to Christina now, she has Atticus all tied up, and she wastes no time. Slits this man's both arms like a savage. He's just bleeding out like a faucet. She's like bathing in it. The power is starting to pretty much, you know, course through her body and whatnot. And it was in this moment where he didn't know what happened to Letty. He was freaking out until he finally sees her, and you see a sign of relief on his face. Like, as long as she's good, I'm okay with this. And Man, this whole episode just hit me in the feels with this stuff, man, just back to back. So now, with it seeming too late, Letty tries to stab Christina, and Christina kind of just laughs it off like, it's too late, it's too late. And this is where Gia realizes this is her fate. This is what the one lady in that one episode was talking about, that she will be consumed in complete darkness. And, you know, for this spell to work, Christina has to be connected to Atticus, so she uses her tails, whatnot, to get in between and pretty much help this whole process go along for Hannah's spell to pretty much work. And it works, but the downside of it is we lose Atticus, quote unquote. There's no telling if he might come back. I'll get into that later on at the end of this episode, but it was really emotional, especially for Montrose. But the ending was so satisfying as we see Dee come back with the dog, the pet dog, and says something interesting, says, "You never learn," and crushes her throat. And end of the story, end of the episode, crushes her throat. And I'm wondering what she means by that, because there's so much story left in this whole entire series that I feel like they're going to figure out a way, or Tick is going to figure out a way to pretty much come back. And George, because I think George and Tick are somewhere in like a purgatory universe or something like that, and they could possibly come back, because it's interesting that we didn't see George at all throughout this whole entire series after like episode 2. I'm thinking that they're both going to make their grand return, which would be awesome at some point in the second season, you know, to help the group, because man, I really don't know where they could take this going into a season 2. And maybe that's a good thing, because now it leaves the door open for so many different possibilities. What are these other lodges up to? Are there more powerful magic users other than the Brave Whites? I'm so curious, because I don't think Christina's the be-all, end-all. There's definitely some other threats out there, but I appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully you stick around for the whole entire video. But until next time, I'm out.